G'day all, welcome back to the G-Man Show. We have a second video for you today. Alright, we're talking through the consultancy firms raking in billions of taxpayer dollars. This is a Four Corners video. It's a bit of an older one, it's still very relevant. Things have changed a little bit in the market since this one was made, but still very much happening. The link's in the video description. Let's jump in. Good music. The Dream Factory.
They are the corporate titans with salaries and glimmering towers to match.
All right. I'm going to debunk one theory here. These, the PWC and KPMG, EY, Deloitte, they actually don't pay as much as what people think they do. So people think that if you just work there, you're going to be getting paid this massive salary. You're actually a slave. That is, what was it? Churn and burn through young people. That's the business model. And then some people, they make it up to the top. They get to partner and senior partner. That's when they start making some mega dollars. But yeah, even up to director, you're not making that. Not what I would consider big dollars. That's for sure. Not even a director relevant to a similar role out in industry. So I think that's a bit of an inaccuracy already. In the sweatshops.
Once dowdy accountants, the so-called Big Four are today household names. PWC, KPMG, EY and Deloitte.
They're not the so-called Big Four. They are the Big Four. They're the biggest four professional services firms on the entire planet. So it's it's not so-called.
In recent years, they've embraced the far more lucrative and secretive world of management consulting.
There's no transparency. There is no register of who they're working for anywhere. There is no public access to that information. These are closed worlds which have been operating in their own little empires.
Their reach extends from the boardroom to the very heart of government. Australia's spending on consultants is among the highest in the world.
Government is the number one customer in the world. The consultants are pretty much feasting on public service delivery, policy advice. It's absolutely pervasive.
At the end of the day, they have to go out to tender and the government actually does select them. So it isn't like they're forcing the government to use them. As someone who's done similar kind of work to this in the past, I'm going to keep it broad here. I've worked on behalf of government as a contractor. And I can tell you right now, people say, well, if the government has so many public servants, why can't they do all the work themselves? The average employee in the public service, now I'm not saying all, so for those of you who might work public service, I may not be talking about you. They're dead wood, okay? When it comes to talent and to delivering complex tasks or projects outside of their business as usual day-to-day job. The capability isn't there. The speed isn't there. The energy isn't there. Okay, that's how consultants stay in business. Because a lot of people ask me this: how do consultants make so much money? Because they do things quickly a lot of the time that the people who are paying them either A, don't want to do, don't have the resources to do, or can't do, and don't know how to do. Because a lot of this stuff it's niche services. And look, the people hiring big four. I'm not defending. I'm just being a bit fair here because they're coming down pretty hard on them straight away. Yeah, they're niche services that somebody, an executive in government, may do one or two those projects in their entire life, and the big four do them day in, day out. So that's the reason why they have value. Also, the other side of it is people in these government departments, they may have an agenda which they're trying to push. They get the big four in. They tell the big four to basically write the report to say what they want in it, more or less, and they do it under heavy direction, scoped by that government client. That's why it's done. And they can say, if it doesn't work out, they can shake around the PWC report or the KPMG report and say, oh, you know what? Well, they said to do it. I was just going off what they said, and I'm going to put my hands up in the air. There's no fault for me here. It was them. They stuffed up. That's the main value of consultants.
Consultants are everywhere.
While these firms might have slick offices with sweeping views of Sydney Harbour, their biggest client is in Canberra. Over the last decade, Australian governments have paid the big four firms a staggering $10 billion.
And that is staggering. As I said, I have been involved in this line of work before. And for the most part, the way these firms work is I'll have a partner who'll be like the subject matter expert / salesperson for that particular team they work in. And then they'll have some experienced director or senior manager who actually knows what's going on, how to do the work on the field, and an army of inexperienced consultants, grads 1, 2, 3, even 4 years out of university that really can only get the work done under heavy direction, supervision and review of someone who knows what they're doing. And they charge big rates for some of these kids, hundreds of dollars an hour for a bloody intern who doesn't even know what they're doing. They go and get coffee for everyone, sit in an office looking at the wall on Google. $250, $300 an hour in some cases. That's what's charged. So that's what it is, and that's the biggest criticism of consultancies. It's a body shop. They throw a bunch of humans at a problem to get it done.
We find big consultant partners peppered across Australian government departments. They're in the senior leadership teams in agriculture, in the federal police, in finance. They're auditors internally for a wide range of government departments. So they're everywhere and they're really big.
It's called networking. You don't just walk in the door. I mean, these people have had to schmooze to get into those positions, that's for sure. Don't just let anybody in.
They're now very much part of the inner circle, but having them so close presents dangers. The PWC scandal has shown that confidential government information is not always safe in private sector hands.
And I find that interesting because, so you got PWC, they had a few people that worked there, so this is even the whole business. You got a few people who worked there who broke trust, they did the wrong thing, they shared insider information with other parts of their business so they could get fees. More fees. Trading on classified tax-related information. And then using that information to then inform their clients on how to dodge these new incoming regulations, something along those lines, tax laws and stuff. So that was, a handful of people? That has literally caused an astonishing amount of damage to PWC, but also the entire consulting industry. Now, some of the smaller consultancies and boutiques and firms out of the big four, they're benefiting from this because the big four have now been shunned, and hey, it's a day of reckoning, isn't it? A few people do the wrong thing, and the government's changed its mind now to try and diversify the amount of money it spends on a wider breadth of consultancies. They're also doing some stuff in-house, setting up their own internal consulting divisions, trying to get people who may have worked at these big fours to go and work on internal projects, and they can service that organisation without paying exorbitant amounts of consulting fees. Because it is exorbitant.
We've certainly got a mounting body of evidence which alarms me about the reach of the large consultants into the public sector and the serious consequences for us as citizens, for our democracy, for the value that we get from very big spends, and for the long-term capability of our public sector.
The roof of Parliament lends a new perspective to this corporate insurgency. So in Canberra, proximity is actually everything. So right down below me here, it's the PWC building, which is closer to Parliament House than most government departments.
This guy here thinks he's like James Bond or something, and a really undercover, very clandestine in the way he does his investigative journalism. It was funny, guys. I made a video about cigarettes, the black market with the Manchesters and the double happiness and all that sort of stuff. And this guy goes in, thinks he's really undercover, right? Thinks he's just Jason Bourne going in there. Hello, do you have any of those illegal cigarettes that are not supposed to be sold? I'd like to buy a number of packets of those, thank you.
Back over behind me, it's KPMG, alongside its biggest client, the Department of Defence. In the thick of it here, Ernst & Young. And then back over this side, Deloitte. When it's laid out like this, it really is quite striking. The explosion in the number of consultants followed a cull of 15,000 public servants after the Abbott government came to office in 2013. A cap on recruitment was also imposed. The intention had been to cut costs, but consultants filled the vacuum. Federal government spending on the Big Four is now 6 times higher than it was 10 years ago.
I actually saw it was like the top 100 accounting firms or something like that in the AFR. And all of those Big Four have lost some significant ground in the last financial year with the level of growth. So they've actually retraced. They've gone backwards. So I think the party might be over in the short term, but long term, these guys always survive. Also, in these places, you do have a lot of very quality, hardworking, intelligent people who are not doing anything wrong. They're just going there and doing their job. But I want to talk about, once again, the public service. I've dealt with many people in the public service. 9 out of 10 of them, useless. Literally, a mannequin could be sitting on a chair in front of the computer and having the same output. Absolutely useless. And getting paid quite well as well.
If you imagine 30 or 40 years of resource stripping from the public service, flesh was taken
It's
off.
like trying to be Clark Gable or something like that. It's she's going for the what's his name? You guys know the guy I'm talking about, Ray Martin. Ray Martin. Got a hold of Ray Martin, bit of Roy Orbison. What's going on here?
Got down to the bones. The bones are pretty osteoporotic now as a result of the inroads that consultancy firms have made. It's led probably to much higher levels of spending than in reality could be achieved under the traditional system. Well, it was one of those boiling frog problems, you know.
Professor Chris Wallace is a historian and former public servant who has watched consultants gradually infiltrate the federal government.
And of course, Canberra's a really small place. Ex-public service friends, ex-staffers, ex-politicians, going to consulting firms, coming back. It's just completely routine in Canberra now, and it's pretty much everywhere.
It's a revolving door between consultancies and government.
That's how business is done everywhere. You get these Big Four firms. Any sort of firm, any professional services firm of any size, they're going to leverage their network to get jobs. I don't think there's anything really that sinister about it. But the government is definitely dependent on them. And as I keep saying, because I've worked with them, I've had people say to me, "Oh, why do they need you out there?" I'm like, because I can do the work of 3 of them without breaking a sweat. Problem-solving skills, drive, motivation. You know, good old, when you're younger, do an extra, staying late, solving problems. It's just not the MO of most government public servants. That's why they're in there. All right, halfway, guys. If you enjoy my content, consider subbing to the channel. Like, comment, all that sort of stuff. Push the algorithm. It really does help me out. And the more you guys do that, the better results I get and the more wider audience I can be pushed out to. And I appreciate all of you who do help.
keeps all sides employed.
Many politicians, public servants, ex-staffers can be warehoused in consultancies, and when government changes or there's regime change of some kind in a particular part of government, they can of course come back from the consultancy, go into the public service department, and again be a friendly port of call for consultants they'd previously worked with.
This revolving door continues to spin. Despite Labor pledging to curb the influence of consultants, the Albanese government has appointed 3 department heads straight from the big firms. Blair Comley, running health. He's just spent the past 5 years at Ernst & Young. Jim Betts, also briefly an EY partner, now heading infrastructure. And Natalie James, in charge of the Department of Employment after 4 years with Deloitte.
Yeah, okay. So they've gone and gotten a job based on their expertise. So you've got top performers, subject matter experts in their field, proven. You don't get to partner or senior positions in the Big Four if you're a muppet. It just doesn't happen. Those places are up or out. They're pretty ruthless. Once again, guys, I'm not defending it, but I'm just giving you a perspective of someone who understands, has seen all this happen. So these people go and they get good jobs in the public service. Why wouldn't you? They get similar pays or maybe a bit less for far better work-life balance. They leverage all their great experience that they've gotten and broad experience that they bring to the role. I already told you, most public servants, useless might be a bit harsh, but low capability is probably the better way of describing it.
Labor Senator Deborah O'Neill played a key role in starting the parliamentary investigation into the big consulting firms. She's based on the New South Wales Central Coast.
You know, once upon a time, people...
$1 million. And that was just on a single proposal. The whistleblower claims KPMG charged for work never completed and billed for a consultant who wasn't even on the project. The stat deck went on to say,
"We discovered that every KPMG invoice reviewed was incorrect. Defence had been consistently overcharged. KPMG wasted a significant amount of public funds enabled by Defence personnel, complicit in blindly awarding multiple contract extensions to KPMG with little or no scrutiny."
The whistleblower claimed...
So almost singing a song for you guys. That AFR article that I was telling you guys about, defence spend is gone through the floor compared to what it was at KPMG. So they're reaping what they've sowed, or allegedly sowed. Who knows what the truth is? But yeah, that money's going to the middle market or other players in the space.
Connections helped KPMG win a big contract.
KPMG's initial contract for over $14 million was significantly higher than any other tendered price. Within around 12 months, KPMG received well over $4 million in contract extensions.
Defence dismissed much of the complaint in 2016, despite the whistleblower providing financial reports and documents. A spokesperson told us that
Defence complies with Commonwealth procurement policy.
They added,
procurements made in relation to consulting services must represent value for money.
The thing with KPMG is that they're not telling you this, but KPMG was very, there's a lot of experience in defence in Australia. So even if they weren't the cheapest, they might have had the better service offering. They knew the people. They had the expertise. They had the continuity to be effective. So maybe they could charge a premium. You know, you never know what you're getting. You go for a cheaper price on anything, you get what you pay for. Now, I'm not defending them. I'm just telling you from a different perspective how that might be looked at by a procurement team. For those of you who don't know what a procurement team is, they're the internal team that'll work for government who would do an assessment of the proposals put in by your KPMGs and EYs and even other players for a piece of work that they've put out tendered to market. So it needs to go through relatively rigorous evaluation. They do their own little report and make their own decisions based on the outcomes of that. Value for money doesn't mean it's cheap. Value for money means what are you getting versus what are you paying for. Doesn't mean it has to be cheap.
What I don't hear is anybody calling it for what it is, an abuse of privilege and power.
Senator O'Neill says consultants are exploiting weaknesses in the public service.
These companies, not just in Australia, but around the world, operate a land and expand model where they get in, sometimes underprice the first piece of work, and once they get in, then they expand their reach through familiarity.
The whole land and expand. Every single consultancy could use that as a strategy. That's the whole idea. You get in and then you network when you're in there and you suss out other opportunities. This isn't anything. This is doing business. Everyday business at any professional services company, whether it's got 2 people in it or 20,000, that's what they're going to do. They're doing business. It's business development. A lot of different industries do this. Even in construction projects, they'll go in low with a low ball, and then they'll get their money back. They'll claw it back with contract variations and claims.
KPMG has had this land and expand model on full display with defence. Over the last decade, it's won work that was initially valued at $1.1 billion, but later increased to $1.8 billion. That's a $700 million increase.
The whole business model of these companies is billable hours. The longer they stay there, the less efficiently they do the job. It's about getting very, very close to government, finding out what's going on, using the contacts, and then growing the business.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's really bad. Hang on. They're doing business. Now, guys, I'm not saying I'm a big fan of the Big Four. I'm not. But I like to get this information and then give my own opinion on it. So, they're so bad for going in there and trying to win more business. If you ran your own business, would you not try and shake a few trees and work out what your customers are doing? If they have anyone who else, who might need your services, that's called doing business. Oh, yeah, so bad. Now, at the end of the day, $700 million in overruns, that's pretty interesting. It isn't that you can charge whatever you want and you get paid for it. Now, I don't know about these particular contracts. When I've been involved doing this kind of contracting work, they're actually very, very, they're all over it. Like, they'll make you do a fixed price scope, really squeeze you for every little cent of value. So I'm not sure what sort of gravy train good old Capers must have been running over there, but you do any extra hours over and above what you've put in your bid, your fixed price bid, guess what? You're eating those. You're not. There's no way you're getting variation. Or I can just bill them for it. I don't know, guys. Have you had a different experience if you've worked in these kind of places?
On a steely winter's morning in a fishing village outside Melbourne, we meet whistleblower number 2.
Or number 2.
He'd spent 2 years working for KPMG on defence projects and backs up what our earlier whistleblower told us.
A lot of rule breaking have been normalised.
He asked not to be identified as he still works in the industry.
I absolutely had concerns about the quality of work that KPMG was doing for defence. I would say that KPMG was doing work for defence that ultimately wasn't needed. KPMG was simply happy, in my view, to propose these new works, get them signed off, and reap the financial benefits.
Okay, all right, I understand that. So, but the government can say no. Once again, I know it sounds like I'm defending KPMG. all right? Why would you not get paid for something that you've scoped out and tried to sell and then they've signed off on it? I don't understand that. All these places try and on-sell services. If they didn't truly need it, they wouldn't have bought it. I don't know, that's my opinion. As I said, I've been involved in similar places to this. The joints aren't as dodgy as what they're making them out to be. It's just ruthless business practices, networking, etc.
He claims those financial benefits extended to telling KPMG staff to build defence for work that was never performed.
Now that's bad.
I was instructed to record my time spent on internal projects against defence codes. I think KPMG, in my experience, are absolutely prepared to break the rules, to be dishonest, to work in ways that would be unacceptable in normal business, to win more business from the Commonwealth. And ultimately, it's taxpayers who are paying for this.
He told us KPMG walked a fine line when it came to cooling off periods, designed to prevent firms profiting from confidential government information. In 2019, KPMG hired Peter Corcoran, a senior defence official, to run its government cybersecurity business in Canberra. He was banned from working with Defence for 12 months. We obtained an email titled "Chocks Away," congratulating Corcoran for creating a storm front of work.
The 6 months seem to have gone incredibly fast. Peter has a further 6-month ban from working directly with Defence, but his contribution to date has been immense.
Why is he English?
Just 2 paragraphs later, he added,
Peter continues to meet Defence personnel on the side, maintaining relationships and building new relationships.
He says it was a toxic environment for staff at KPMG.
All the joints have pretty much run their people into the ground. Now, I've never heard of people billing for work they've never done. I mean, that's highly dishonest, so I've never seen that sort of thing. So that's pretty shocking to hear that, if that's true or not. I mean, how substantiated is it?
It was pretty vicious and competitive.
Yep.
There was a lot of intimidation, harassment and bullying. I was told in 1 week of 3 individual cases of harassment. I tried to raise that within KPMG and was pretty much rebuffed.
What sort of harassment?
It ranged from sexual harassment to workplace bullying to making people feel pretty unvalued.
Despite
So don't go work for one of those places unless you know what you're getting into. They're ruthless operators. They're going to have very high KPIs. You're very much going to be persona non grata if for an extended period of time you're not hitting your KPIs, which are mostly done on billable hours. Sometimes sales for it is sales for senior people and billable hours. But a lot of times for people, say anywhere under sort of senior manager, even below directors level, those sales are out of your hands. They're out of your control. You have no real influence in them. You may help towards proposals, things like that, but you're not out there rainmaking. However, you are held accountable if the business doesn't bring in enough business to keep everyone busy. So if you say you have a chargeability rate that's 90% that you have to hit, 90% of your hours, and you're at 70% or 60%, you can just you can bet your bottom dollar you're going to have a target wrapped around you, and they're going to try to work out why.
being warned that his career would suffer, he contacted the KPMG Whistleblowers hotline.
Did you get any more work at KPMG?
No, I didn't. And my contract wasn't renewed.
What's been the cost to you?
I lost close to 20 kilos in weight. I lost enamel from my teeth. My legal costs are still increasing, and I think in the end I'm likely to have incurred more cost than I ever earned from my work at KPMG.
KPMG's chief executive declined to be interviewed. In a statement, the firm said the whistleblower's complaints had nothing to do with his contract not being renewed. KPMG said it had investigated claims made by a former contractor in 2019, and there was no evidence to support overbilling of defence. As to Peter Corcoran's continued contact with his old colleagues, KPMG said,
"We have reviewed this matter and it is clear there was no breach of the contractual cooling off period."
Over the last decade, KPMG's defence business has soared. Its annual defence billings peaked at almost $450 million last year.
That's incredible.
A six-fold increase. This has coincided with KPMG's targeting of former defence staff. Four Corners research shows that over the last 5 years, almost 100 former defence staff have moved to KPMG.
That makes sense, right? The one people that have... it's interesting because I'll get those defence staff. The defence staff go work at KPMG. KPMG will then sell those people back in as on consulting rates to do probably the job that they left. It is hilarious. I know there's a lot of outrage here. Guys, I've worked in this industry before, so I know exactly what's going on. This might sound shocking to some people. It's just doing business. And I'm not saying all the dodgy things about obviously overbilling and all that. I've never seen it happen. If anything, when you go to do your final bills and invoicing, you actually have to run it past your boss, and they will scrutinise what you've done, all right? And for the most part, there's risk aversion. They'll say, oh, that might be a bit much. Even if it is within the band, within a range that you said it would cost, they'll go, no, let's cut a bit off because they're going to come and push back. So it sounds like KPMG had full runway here with defence, full monopoly on it. I think that the chickens have come home to roost. Like they have lost quite a bit of money, defence. Do a quick Google of it. You'll see. It's like, I think it's minus 20% or more. So still getting lots of money, but not what it was. This thing about hiring people from a business into a consulting business, this is very standard practice. Every single division and team within these places will do that. Even these smaller businesses, I've seen it, which I've worked for. They'll hire someone who was well regarded at a former place of employment or industry, hoping they can leverage that person's reputation to get work, either from their previous employer or from connections in the industry. That's why they do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
You know, if you've got a very senior public servant with that immense, deep departmental knowledge and extraordinary Rolodex, you know, they know everybody. They're a familiar face that the consultant can then roll into the department when pitching for work. It just raises the degree of comfort that government departments have when hiring consultants. And of course, it's a two-way street.
Exactly right. Here's the problem.
Good morning. Welcome to AM. I'm Sabra Lane.
ABC, you know, they're really interesting. The only thing here that I would say is dodgy is the overcharging and that person that they've wheeled out, the whistleblower who's charged on projects they've never worked on. I've never heard of that happening, okay? For anyone who's ever worked in these sort of places, you can't just charge money to clients and get away with it. That's not how it works. People, the partners and directors who own, they're called codes, engagement codes, very, very protective of their codes. They're going to let someone just plug money on it? Absolutely not. Because it erodes all their margins, which then they're held accountable for, which then affect their pay. Can I say it didn't happen? No, I've never seen it happen. If anything, you hear people saying, don't charge your time to the client because we've gone in with this budget and we've got to stick to it. And so people work 80 hours and they bill 40 hours. That's what generally happens. It isn't the other way around, work nothing and bill a bunch of time. Now, I'm not saying that didn't happen, could have happened. Obviously, the guy is alleging so very strongly and has, I guess, he's walking the walk. He's got all these legal fees with KPMG, so it must have happened. I don't know.
I think if you go right and then left,
I'm on my way to see one of the senators who's made it her business to follow the money.
Green Senator Barbara Pocock helped kick off the Senate inquiry.
And the Defence Department is squarely in her sights.
I'm going to leave it there. We're about 35 minutes in. Go watch the rest of the thing if you're really interested in it. There's this, they did KPMG, which is the front part here, which I talked about. And then there's a PWC tax scandal, which I'm sure a lot of you would have heard about, known about. It's been all over the news. PWC's had a whole bunch of redundancies. They had a spin-off business that was created, their government business, based on their or their government clients and partners and that. Now, that's had some huge redundancies, so it's not going very well for them at all. Once again, self-inflicted, deserve it for what they did. If anything, and there should have been bigger repercussions than that. Complete fraud. All right, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, guys.